So I had a strange um, feeling of actually making a video like this. Maybe it might help somebody in the future. So if you've read the title, um, you see, you have to understand the story where I've come from. So I've had a very um, rough childhood growing up. Um, Things were never quite easy to say. There was a lot of challenges and ups and downs and a lot of, you can say, tests, you know, um, that sort of was always there. There was never a free flowing life. Like if you look at a lot of other people, when they progress in life from one stage to the next, there's always this fluent flow where they find exactly what they want in that specific field. They go in that, and then it leads them to another thing and another thing and another thing and another thing. And then eventually, later down their life, they go through something that sort of shifts and moves them into looking in towards spirituality and going towards an inner journey. So my inner journey started at a very, very young age. I would say, well, that's a story for another time. But uh, I've done an episode in the podcast. Uh, I'll put a link to it if anyone's interested in actually going and um, listening to that. It's quite something. So going back to the story, having a very tough childhood and never had it like easy in a way. And with this difficulty, there were a lot of it posed so much of obstructions. But now when I look back at it, it was more of like, if those obstructions weren't there, it wouldn't have allowed me to be or become this type of being, this type of having this level of perception and being able to see things from that higher perspective. It's not really a higher perspective, but just for lack of words, I'm just using it as a term of higher perspective. So when I got pushed into the spiritual path, I started to look and started to seek for answers. I started to question everything, and that was because I've had, I was exposed to the internet at that time. YouTube was sort of like booming. I think this was around 2015 or so, and that's when I came across a few spiritual teachers who I thought were spiritual teachers. They're the big ones on YouTube. And I followed them for a really long time because they seem to have the answers to which our mind questions, everything. So you tend to use them as a source for your spiritual growth. Later on, you find out that it's actually an inner journey. It had nothing to do with the external at all. And it's really, really quite something. And I've heard this name, Maha Babaji, many, many times. I've heard it, and I've heard stories of these YouTubers, these big spiritual gurus, if you want to call them, on the internet. They speak of this being called Maha Babaji, this timeless, deathless yogi or saint or whatever you want to call it. And it sort of like intrigued me, to like see if I can connect or I can do something to come in contact. Because at that time it was sort of like a hierarchy that was built within myself, that these this being by the name of Maha Babaji is like right at the top. So that is like the ultimate spiritual teacher. So, you know, it had that sort of an image built in, painted by these spiritual teachers. So I was very intrigued by that. And then I found there was this mantra or something like that by this organization called Bhakti Marg. And the founder had some encounters with Maha Babaji. And they had a mantra that was on their YouTube channel, so I played that, and I felt it was very strange because I felt like a presence in a way, very, very difficult to describe, but I felt like a presence. And you know, this was like my form of you know, connecting to something that is more powerful than what I was at that moment. So I continued to do the chanting or the meditation, or just sitting in silence, just listening just to the name being uttered. You know, it was really something. And I did that for a long time, a very, very long time. And I would do it every day when I do my meditation or yoga or whatnot. I used to do it every day. And later on, I was trying to go to a specific place which was known for spirituality. And trying to go there were so many obstacles. So many obstacles. And at that time, I think like about a year back or so, my family had sort of financial problems, and I've asked for some assistance in that. And if you want to say, he has responded, and it became very evident. You know, it was very, very evident. So it was nice because I looked at it as a very sacred thing to have a connection. And then a lot of people wouldn't talk about this, but the whole purpose of why I'm creating this video is to share a powerful message, which I will get to. I'm just going through the story for now. So that sort of gave me the comfort. But I asked for this to happen because I had an intention. You see, the intention I had when I asked for this was so that if the financial situation is taken care of, then I can focus fully on the spiritual path, like 100%. Like when I mean 100%, I'm talking about, in my experience and understanding, 100% at that time was that you have to become like a monk, or you have to walk on the path as a brahmachari, or something on a very extreme level. Like, you know, go to the Himalayas, sit there and meditate, find something, you know, like a very, very extreme kind of path I wanted to take. So I asked with that type of intention, because I wasn't intended to teach about spirituality or talk about it to any person. It was just me searching for truth and finding something that can sort of guide me and to wherever, God knows where. But so when that sort of leveled out in terms of finance for myself and the family, then what actually happened was, while I was trying to go on the spiritual journey for some time, there were a lot of obstacles. Now, when I mean obstacles that is just, when you look at it, and if you actually went through what I went through, it's not it's not likely for this many obstacles to be in one's path. A lot of people say that there is, you get put through a test, an endurance test, or you get put through a lot of things to test your faith and all this nonsense. But I think in the past, prior to that, prior to trying to go on a spiritual path and having all these obstacles, I did have obstacles, but they were nothing like this. This was something like supernatural, and it used to be something like this. If it's not A, it's B. If it's not B, it's C. If it's not C, it's A. So it'll keep jumping around from one point to another point. If it's not this, it's that. It's that. So it just keeps going on and on and on in this kind of endless cycle. And other people that were also trying to go on this spiritual journey, they didn't experience what I was experiencing. Like one of the things for me was to get my passport and to get a visa, and they would apply for things, and they would get things way before me. Like, I'll be the first person to apply for my visa or my police clearance certificate, because it was a specific type of visa that I needed. So I would have these people apply for these things way after me, like 2 to 3, 4 weeks. And they would get theirs before me, which didn't make sense because they used the same services which I've used. And so many things got delayed, and the agency which we all use, they didn't even contact me to tell me that they've lost a copy of this and that. They started losing documents and things like that off. So it was kind of very, very strange and very weird. But there's always logical ways to look at things. It's not something that's supernatural, but in my experience, it felt like there was like a force preventing me from going on this path, which I so wanted to. I wanted to leave the material path, leave everything, and just walk straight in this direction, because I always found this type of fulfillment from the spiritual path, trying to walk on this journey. I always found that fulfillment, that happiness, that joy when sitting and doing meditation, when focusing on my spiritual growth. That was my source of joy for most of my life. So it was like a relief from all of the pain and the suffering I went through in the early parts of my life. So my friend from a different city, she told me that, why don't you go and see a psychic? So my path is like, what is a psychic? And I'm not doing things like that. It's just a waste of money and all that stuff. And I got fed up one day, and I said, okay, I'll try it. I was open-minded towards it. And I remember when I was sitting there for the session, because I was hesitant to even pay money for this. I was like, okay, I got everything I'm trying at this point. Like, I can't find the answers to as why nothing's working out. I'm doing everything according to the book, following all the rules, regulations. I'm being patient, and still nothing. I've been following up. I've done everything in my power, basically, and nothing's like really, no momentum is happening here. So it's like you feel like you're stuck, you're tied to a rock, and you just can't move. It felt like that. So then I said, okay, I'll go to this psychic lady and see what she has to say. And she was a Kundalini yoga teacher as well. So she was into some form of teaching about spirituality. So I said, okay, let's see what she has to say about it. I got nothing else to lose at this point other than some money. But if she can give me some guidance, why not? So I went to her and we had this session, and then she started reading my parents and all these other things around my life. But the the purpose of why I'm sitting there to ask her why, what can I do, or is there something that you can give me advice on to clear this kind of obstacles and stuff, like none of that she was talking about. She was just going on about all other things. I didn't really care about other things. I was like, I just want to know how to clear whatever's here, if there is anything here. I don't know, but give me something I can use. So while we were talking, the video call, it was over video call, it got cut. And when we reconnected, she noticed that I had Maha Babaji's photo on my display picture. And what she did was, she said, hey, do you know I was initiated? So she was initiated by Maha Babaji himself, came and initiated her. So I was quite stunned, but at that time I wasn't really interested in that initiation. I was like, just tell me what I need to know to clear up these obstacles so I can do what I want to do. And she told me I should look into reading Lahiri, Mahasaya and stuff. I heard the name at that time from, I think, one of the YouTube videos I watched of the lineage and stuff, and I wasn't like really interested, like, because the only thing that I was interested in was from the whole entire lineage was Maha Babaji. That was it. Like at that time, I don't think I heard of Yogananda and stuff. So she said that, and then I was like, I just brushed it off aside, and then she gave me a Kundalini yoga practice, and said, do this, and it's a very simple thing. So I did it. She told me the third time you go and you try for this specific document you're trying to get from the consulate, it would come through. So I was like, okay, I got nothing at this point. If you want me to do this practice, I'll do it and try it. I'll just be open to it. I sat there and I did the practice, and what actually happened was, I think on the 7th day, I had like a spiritual experience. I won't talk about it here, but I had a spiritual experience that changed everything. And it really opened me up to psychics. Like, okay, they're not all talk. There's something here about it that you can use in your life to sort of like guide you in a way. So third time I actually went to the consulate, I actually did get my documents. And at that time I was doing teaching. So I quit that, and I was doing teaching maths and science at a high school. So I quit that there to do the spiritual path. I was like, I need to put full focus here. But then at that time, I was waiting for the last document, and then the place I was supposed to go to, they said that the time is up. So all this effort was sort of for nothing to some extent. So anyway, then I went through I went through like about 6 months with psychics. I spent 6 months with psychics. There's some free videos on YouTube and stuff. Very eye-opening things. Very, very eye-opening things. And it allowed me to explore a lot of things on the spiritual path that was actually happening to me. Like, so psychics had, why I was so drawn to it, because it had the answers to things I could never figure out. Like certain, I would have like certain encounters with certain beings and stuff. Talking about like supernatural beings, and they were always, you can say, in my life from a very young age. And you know, the psychics sort of knew what it was, and they literally had all the answers, simply being said. So I explored more into it, and then they started speaking about some other crazy stuff. So I dug a little bit deeper. Then I went into something called past life readings. So I went into that there, and they told me that I was this in a past life, and they gave me this whole long story and stuff. What was interesting was it sort of resonated because certain things I was doing in this life was sort of aligned to these past life readings which I was doing. And they were general readings, and nothing like a specific one-on-one reading. So it except for the logical mind to understand how accurate, like you see the psychics that I went to on YouTube were so accurate that the level of accuracy, like you must understand, there's so many thousands of videos, but for you to come across that one specific, and it's not one video, I've been through so many videos, to come across the right type of videos. And what was more crazy was the timing. You see the timing that I was coming across these specific videos. Those specific things were happening to me. And these psychics, which I couldn't understand at that time, these experiences, but these psychics were able to explain. So that was even more interesting. And these videos were like on YouTube, they were recorded like 6 months ago, 8 months ago. But at that time I was coming across it, you know, in that present moment. And these were old videos. So I started to really, really get interested into these things. Like, okay, maybe you don't have anyone around you to guide you on a spiritual path, but at least you have these psychics which can be used as a powerful tool. You know, they could help you understand what is going on around here. Things that we are not aware enough to actually see from with our eyes and our intellect and use our logic to figure out certain things. They were actually able to put all the puzzle pieces together for me. So it was like it was a very, very eye-opening time for me. It was like 6 months I went on looking at, watching this video, watching that video, watching, actually drawn more and more and more and more and more. And eventually it opened me up to so much that I think it got a bit out of hand to some extent, but I knew the limits of how much can I, you know, stay, you know, involved with this people. And what was crazy was I used to get, there was this app which you could go on and you can speak to psychics. And on this app, it used to give me free money, which was even more strange. I used to get free money to do more readings with psychics. And these are one-on-one psychics now that you're going with. So I was getting money. Like I would use that money that was there, and then they'll be like, hey, we have awarded you with $50. Hey, we have awarded you with $23. And like, you know, it was like paradise, because I was like, I don't have to pay to go to psychics. I can just go on this app and talk to these psychics. And then I went to this one specific psychic, and she told me things that were very, very accurate, and it was over text. So it was very strange. The only information that you actually give them is your first name and your date of birth, and they can read everything. They're that good. And these were like the top rated psychics in the world. They got like reviews like 10,000 reviews, 4.8 stars and stuff. So, and you would read underneath the comments and stuff. So it was really, really something. Then I started to find certain things which they did predict that exists. But I was really interested in, does these things really exist? I wanted to find just the truth about it. I don't care whether it does exist or not, but does something like this, is there a possibility that things like this do, are they part of this reality? Is this reality what we know it to be, or is it something else more deeper? Because if you look at a lot of religion, the scriptures and stuff, they talk about a lot of weird stuff in there. So one of the things is like extraterrestrial beings. The other things are like archangels. And the other stuff is like a lot of fairy tale-ish things. So like I don't come from that kind of a cultivation of culture where these things do exist. So these things are like your fairy tale book coming to life. It's like that. And I did dig deep, and I found a lot of evidence, personal evidence, like encounters, like with actual encounters with these supernatural things. I'm calling them supernatural things just to put it in one category. Not that it is, because it is physical in nature, so it's not anything supernatural. To the mind, it's supernatural, and to the way how I've lived, because so far till that point I've lived in a box. You can say the mind is structured around a box, right? And the things outside the box that we are told don't really exist. So I started to find things outside the box. I started to look outside the box, started to go outside the box, and then found results. So it gave me motivation. So I kept digging further. Then I went to this, after some time of finding some evidence and meeting a lot of people, I came across this one specific friend from overseas. And he and I had a lot of similar events, like two similar events in our upbringing, which was it was very strange and very odd. Then the only thing I could think of must be a past life person that was around me and all that stuff, like logically. Well, at that time I started to begin to accept that maybe there is something like a past life that actually, is a real thing. Reincarnation, maybe it's a real thing. So at that time I was very intrigued by psychics as well, still intrigued. And I wanted to go see a shaman, like an actual shaman who is very well versed in these things and can speak to spirit and all that stuff. So I went to her, and then I asked her about the question, what is the connection do I have to Maha Babaji? And then she told me that I have had past lives with him. That's why I have that strong connection. I have that very strong connection. That's what the words that she used. It's not that nobody has that type of connection. It's just that she just described it like us, because everything is one. Everything is connected. But in her understanding from the duality perspective, she's just using that language to communicate in that way. So I got excited because who wouldn't get excited? I mean, like, imagine having past lives with Maha Babaji. That is something. Then it started to make sense, where it started to explain why certain things in my life on the spiritual path were very easy in terms of inner progress. Like, I'll give you an example. Some people, when they start walking on the spiritual path, if they're doing something called meditation, they would start seeing colors, or they'll start seeing something, or they'll have some sort of an experience. But my experiences were nothing like that. I would never have anything where I would see anything. So I would never have experiences where I get, like, if something has to happen to me, I would get caught in that experience. And the whole thing about it is the experience that you have as an individual when you're walking on a spiritual path is so that that specific experience that you have, it's there to motivate you to continue on the spiritual path. It's not to get stuck in that experience and you stay there. That hinders your growth. And when you actually do experience something, you sit for the next time doing your meditation with the expectation that I'm going to have another experience. And if you know, if you've been doing meditation for a lot of times, you know, if you sit with an expectation, nothing happens. So I never really paid attention to, like, naturally, I never used to really pay attention to spiritual experiences. They were nice. I enjoyed them, but they were nothing like what I used to hear other people having. And I think it was a good thing that I didn't have those experiences, because it was not really necessary to have those experiences. So the shaman told me some stuff, and I asked, would I meet him in this life if I go to, like, the Himalayas, because apparently he resides there at the Himalayas. So I asked her that question, and she says, yes, you'll meet him, but he'll tell you to go within. So when she told me that, I sort of like brushed it off. Because I had some other questions that were at that time were sort of like a little bit more important. That was just one question I had in the back of my mind, because I went to that previous psychic a couple months back. So I ignored that, forgot about it completely. Then I crossed paths with something that was very chaotic and very disruptive in my life, but that was a very, like, forced spiritual growth. If this video gets seen or does well or stuff, I'll probably make a video where I can go into those things a little bit more in depth. But anyway, so I went through something that was a very forced spiritual awakening. I had to learn the hard way. There was only right now, there is only one person in the whole world on the internet that figured out what this forced spiritual awakening is, and he teaches it. And everyone else you listen to on the internet, they don't, whatever advice you take from them just makes the situation even more worse. And this level of suffering I'm talking about is not your normal suffering, which anyone has experienced. This goes on for years. And it goes on for, like, when I'm saying it goes on for years, I mean, it's like, when you have something that you suffer in your life, it comes and then it goes. But this never went away. It felt like eternity. And this kind of suffering, because of this forced spiritual awakening, it's trying to push you towards something called the direct path. So it's the true path. It's not the path of doing, it's the path of being. It's a path of realizing what you are. It's not like I said, it's not a doing. You don't have to do anything. You just are. But you have to realize that you are. So, like right now, when I look back at that experience, although it was horrible, it did show me something very powerful. And then at the beginning of this year of 2024, prior to that, like many months back, prior to that, I thought I had a sense of mastery over the spiritual journey, where this kind of suffering would not return, because I went back into the corporate world and got identified again with the body, with the mind and stuff to some extent. Not fully, but to some extent. And that sort of brought back an immense amount of suffering. And this time it was even worse than I've ever experienced it. And I had to take off like about a week from work. And this is the reason of the powerful message. Now what I'm going to tell you. So I was going through the immense amount of suffering, and then I was advised to sit and do meditation and just observe the mind and sort of bat off the mind, because it is a forced spiritual awakening that's happening. You can't stand in your own way. You can't stand in the way of what is. So I was sitting outside and I had a headset on, and this is the first time I actually did meditation with it was like sort of like a calming kind of a music, but it's just to help you like keep the mind. And this was recommended to me by this person who figured this whole entire thing out. Now he's quite big on YouTube now, and he has went through this experience and he has come out on the other side. So he was the only person that has the answers to what exactly this kind of the purpose of this type of suffering really is. So I was wise enough to know that he walked this path, he walked this journey, which I cannot figure out. And at that time, when I'm saying I cannot figure it out, that was the mind trying to figure it out. And I tried it, and that's when I saw the image of Maha Babaji within myself. Because prior to all the spiritual experiences I've had in my life, I had one very crazy spiritual awakening where I experienced something called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So it's one of the highest types of samadhi one can experience, and you only come back from there if you have some role or something to play here. But that's what I've been told. I don't know if it's true or not, but anyway, that doesn't matter. So from that time I've been in a samadhi state. It's never been put off. It never was put off. It's just on from that time. And when I saw this image of Maha Babaji within myself, then it made sense of what that shaman told me back when she told me that you don't have to go looking for Maha Babaji. And even if you go trying looking for him, he's going to tell you to look within yourself. And the purpose of this is, why I made this video, is not to tell you the story, but to tell you that what you seek, what you are actually looking for, is within yourself. But you can be told that. You see, Maha Babaji is not something that exists within myself specifically. It exists in every single person's inner self, the inner being. And spirituality is not an outward journey. Like, I knew this from wisdom, but sometimes you have to go through the physical struggle. You have to go through so much trying to go on the outside only for you to look within. And even Gautama the Buddha, when he walked on this path, he took a very, very stiff path, and I used him as a role model on the spiritual path for the whole entire spiritual journey. I always looked up to him in terms of his teachings and the way of how he walked, and Adi Shankaracharya. These type of people are like a different quality when they lived here on this planet, and they've played a big role. Their teachings played a big role in my life. So, but they see the Buddha only when he gave up, when he saw the pointlessness of the outward journey, that what you're looking for you will never find. You cannot find it this way. When all methods were given up, when everything was dropped, that's when that realization of the self happened. And whether you walk on this planet, how you walk and stuff. See, you can listen to all the enlightened people. You can read all the scriptures in the world. You can live in an ashram. You can go sit in the mountains. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. But if you don't, and even if I tell you that it's an inward journey, it doesn't mean you can just sit there and say, okay, it's an inward journey, and try to go within. There will always be the mind that's there. There will always be the ego that's there. There will always be the attachment that's there. There will always be this outside searching that's there. And sometimes you have to do the outside stuff. You actually have to burn out the seeker, the one that is trying to find the answers outside. You have to burn him up completely. And only once that what is searching is burnt up completely, then only what is revealed to you. And this is the journey that every spiritual seeker goes through. And there's no shortcuts. That's the thing about spirituality. The true spiritual path is a direct path. There is no shortcuts. You can't bullshit yourself there. You can't lie. You can't deceive yourself, because if you try to do any of that stuff, or if you try to fall back into the cycles, or then what actually happens is you sort of get pushed into suffering, an enormous amount of suffering, only for you to come back out again. And the reason why that suffering is there is because of the fact that you as an individual is searching outside of yourself for what you actually are looking for. And that is the message